When implementing HR functionality with D365 for F&O, one of the core processes that employees will follow will be requesting leave, updating leave, cancelling leave, and managing their absences with the organisation. This can all be done through the employee self-service portal that you're seeing on screen now. Within the employee self-service portal, we have built-in AI Copilot information detailing current accrual rules, any pending leave, and the end of the current accrual period. We also have a leave and absence balance tile available, which will detail how many hours of leave or days they currently have in the current accrual period. Within here, they can request time off and they can specify which type of leave they want to take. Now, the list of leave types that they see here are customized and input by the HR team and configured for this purpose. To configure this functionality, this is set up within its own module in Dynamics under leave and absence. Now, to set up our leave and absence, we need to do two things at the base. We need to set up the types of leave and absence and also the plans, which are going to be used to enroll employees. If we look at leave and absence types first off, your leave and absence types is a configurable list of types of leave that employees will take in an organization. These are specific to a legal entity, meaning that if you have multiple entities across the world in different regions, the list of leave types can change based on whichever region that you are working in. The list will be fully configurable based on the implementation. And within the setup, we can specify the type of leave. We can specify a description for that leave as well, if more information on the type is required. And we can also specify which workflow approval process that particular leave instance will go down. We can use the same approval process for multiple leave types, and we can have multiple approval processes for different leave types as well. This means that for a basic type of leave, such as annual leave, where it simply goes to the line manager for approval, we can set that up. It'll go to the line manager. They'll get an email notification saying they need to approve something. They can approve or reject it, and all parties get a notification saying that it's been completed. For more complicated approval processes for things like maternity or paternity, we can add in additional steps in approvals and a different approval flow where HR may be added into the process as well. We have some categorical information that we can assign to the leave type. We can specify if it's going to be scheduled or unscheduled, depending on whether or not if it's something like annual leave or something like sickness that wouldn't be scheduled. If financial reporting is required, we can add earning codes to this information as well. And we can specify some rules relating to the request itself. Is a reason code required for a particular leave type for something like other? Is an attachment required, which it may be for something like sickness? And lastly, do we want to restrict access to the particular leave type? This means that effectively, if it's something like maternity leave, where we want to enroll the employee, but we don't want them to just take it without telling us of their change in circumstances, we can hide the leave type from the employee after they've notified of a circumstance change, or we've completed an internal process relating to maternity or paternity leave. HR or the line manager can input the leave request on the employee's behalf. We can specify the units that we're going to calculate our leave in. This is set to be either hours or days. If days are selected for a leave type, we can enable half-day definition. This means that an employee can select if they're going to take a full day or a half day. If hours is the unit of measurement, they can simply input the amount of hours they're taking on a particular day. In its base form, that's all we need to do to set up a leave type. We can do some additional things for carry forward setup, which we'll cover in another video. For now, though, our simple leave and absence types are set up and ready to go. Now, we don't want to manually assign each of these leave types to an employee. It's time consuming and it's quite cumbersome to manage in the long term. So instead, in our setup, we have leave and absence plans. Your leave and absence plans effectively group your leave types together in an easy way of assigning them to employees and contractors in the organisation. If we take a leave plan that we've already created, you can see here that, again, we've given it a name, we've given it a description. Most importantly, we've given it a start date. Now, the employee themselves don't see any of the naming or descriptive information that's related to the leave plan. The only thing they see are the leave types that are included in that plan. Depending on how you want to accrue your leave, the start date will be very important. The example we're seeing on screen now, I've set up an accrual to run annually, and I've set it to accrue based on the plan start date. This means that on the 1st of January every year, my accrual is going to run, and that will give everybody their leave for the next 12 months. If your accrual starts on a different day, the 1st of April, you can set it to be the 1st of April, and that way your accrual will start at that particular time. Accrual award date allows us to select whether or not we're going to grant the accrual on either the start of the period or the end of the period. For a lot of American implementations, they run their accruals monthly, and they will give their accrual award at the end of the month. For a lot of other countries in the UK and Europe, we'll run it annually, and we will give people their accrual on the first day of the period. That means we want employees to get their leave on the 1st of January, not the 31st of December. Lastly, on the accrual rules, we can specify if we want to prorate the policy on enrollment and on unenrollment. This means that if somebody starts in June, the system will automatically calculate half of the value for the year and assign it to the employee. We can also set this so that it gives the full accrual or no accrual if you want to do it manually. Lastly, in our setup here, we want to assign the leave types to our plan. Adding leave types is as simple as selecting add in the drop-down in the header. We can select the leave type from a drop-down list, and we can do a number of things to control how much leave we grant to people and what they can do with it. If we use annual leave as our example here, we can specify the months of service in order to be eligible for this particular leave. We can say 0. The accrual amount every year will be 200 hours. The minimum amount is 0. And we can carry forward 40 hours into the next period. We can also suggest if we want to use the FTE of their position to automatically calculate how much leave they're entitled to. This will mean if somebody's got an FTE of 0.5, they'll only get 100 hours. What we can also do in this section is actually add in tiers to our leave and absence policy. Annual leave appears twice here. In the example we're seeing on screen, I'm saying after 24 months or 2 years, our accrual goes up from 200 hours to 240 hours, and our maximum carry forward goes from 40 to 80. This means that whenever the accrual runs on the 1st of January, if you've worked for the organisation longer than 24 months, you'll receive 240 hours instead of 200. On top of this, for things like sick leave, we don't necessarily always give people an accrual amount for sick leave. If you want to do something with something like sick leave, normally the best practice would be to leave this at 0. And we can set a minimum balance here as well if we want to do. So the employee can put some requests in, and it won't show that they've got a balance they can take. Alternatively, using the leave and absence type setup, you can give them a positive accrual amount, but we can hide the balance from them so they don't see it as something that they can take. Once we've input all of our leave and absence types, in a simple example, we're ready to go. At this point, we need to enroll our employees into the plan. We can do this in a number of ways. For an initial rollout, we would do this via an import to assign the plan to employees. Alternatively, in the header of the form, you can see we can assign it directly to employees if we want to do, and we can see all of the employees that exist within our legal entity. We can select an employee from the list, and within the plan, we can see which plan we're going to enroll them on, what the accrual frequency is, the accrual basis, and then lastly, our accrual start date information. By default, the enrollment date will be set to today's date. However, normally we'll want to enroll the employee based on their employment start date. If that is the case, we can select yes, and it will remove the enrollment start date section, and it will take their employment start date as the base. If you do want to change that, we can add in some additional functionality that's available out of the box, where we can take things like seniority date or original hire date if they're an acquisition, and that will then start accruing based on that date instead of the employment start date. For now, we've got our worker. We know which plan we want to enroll them in. From there, we can click Assign Plan, and we can see that our work has been enrolled in the plan. Back on the home screen, if I navigate back to view our leave and absence plans, you can see on the menu any enrolled workers currently. And if we future dated any enrollments for employees that are coming in through the recruitment module, we can see any upcoming enrollments there as well. If I click on the blue number in here, it'll open up a list and we'll be able to see which workers are currently enrolled in that plan.